Star Citizen Alpha 3.13.0 should be going live within the next few days, and there are various things that you can do to get ready for its release and optimize your experience when it does come out. Will there be a wipe? So, what I mean by this is, will I be able to keep my ships that I bought in-game with in-game credits and my UEC that I've been farming for several patches? So, anything bought with real money, 100% is going to be on your account. Don't worry about that. Also, it looks like that there won't be a persistence wipe, so you should be able to keep your stuff from your current progression too. I mean, there could be a wipe, but it looks unlikely at the moment. Cloud Imperium have not said there's going to be one, but that's not a confirmation. It is good practice, however, to remove the items, so your weapons and sort of like components from your ships and your character before the change from 3.12 to 3.13, because often items that are left on your ship and character are sort of like reverted to default, and effectively you can lose those valuable components. If you don't care, then don't worry. If you're like, well, I've got my default loadout anyway, cool, don't worry. But if you've got very expensive components that you've outfitted your ship with, consider removing them. I typically log out at Port Tresta as well, or a space station above a major planetary landing zone before a patch goes live. And the idea being that if it does save your location, then you're able to avoid the more buggy landing zones or bug landing zones that suddenly appear in a patch launch that they didn't foresee before. Because sometimes you're locked out of leaving microtech or something like that. It might not be irrelevant at all, but it's something I like to do. If you've played in the PTU and you don't want to download Star Citizen Fresh again, you could potentially just rename your PTU folder to live, and then that should update the PTU to the live build without as much downloading. Performance-wise, install Star Citizen on your fastest SSD, if you have one. It will save you a huge amount of time on initial loads, and it's a lot more stable and less chunky if it tries to actually read from the hard drive. It is sort of almost essential to have it on an SSD. Like, running on a mechanical drive would be madness at this point. Make sure you have the latest graphics drivers and that Windows is fully updated as well. That's just sort of best practice. Delete your user folder is something you may commonly hear. So people say delete user folder after an update because it forces Star Citizen to basically rebuild the shaders folder, which can cause issues if it's using the old shaders, if you see what I mean. However, deleting your user folder shouldn't be as relevant now because they've actually changed the folder for it. It's now in install, Robert Space Industries, Star Citizen, a live user client /0. So they sort of put it a couple of steps in. Now, if you want to copy across your key bindings and settings, however, you may want to copy the contents of your user folder to that new section. And if you do that, then make sure you delete your shaders folder there, because otherwise you could have problems. A lot of people also just want to make a backup of that old user folder, especially if you've got complicated setups and you've spent ages setting up all your keys and getting everything in order. If you are having consistent frame and low frame rate issues with an NVIDIA graphics card, it's possible you're seeing some form of bottleneck. Actually, that's true of whether you've got an AMD card or an NVIDIA card. I have had some great success going into the NVIDIA control panel, manage 3D settings, program settings, and then selecting or adding Star Citizen there, and setting max frame rate to 60. I typically turn off VSync there and in the game settings, as well as low latency mode in the NVIDIA settings, because that has caused problems with Star Citizen for me in the past. And there are probably similar AMD card settings as well that you can sort of put max frame rate on 60 on Star Citizen. And when you do get in Star Citizen, make sure you've turned off FOIP if you're not going to be using it, or at least not going to be using it often, because it will suck away your precious resources. But also turn off film grain. I don't know why that's a setting. I don't know why that isn't just off by default. Who wants film grain on? Not me. I also turn off chromatic aberration because I don't like it. Bam, get rid of that. I don't want stuff diffusing everywhere. Star Citizen is very much still an alpha, and there are a couple of super useful resources for troubleshooting and general issues. Support.robertspaceindustries.com is the main problem-solving hub, having tons of useful, up-to-date information on common problems and how to solve them. There is also status.robertspaceindustries, which tells you about any service and server troubles that might be ongoing or planned downtime that's coming up. The patch notes for 3.13.0 live could very well have some tips, as well as known issues with the current build, which it is worth taking a look at, and then you can take active steps to mitigate those issues by, avoiding going to a particular location or not using a particular item, it will say, this does not work, or do not do this, pretty much. I'll be doing a load of summaries about the latest patch, all its features, and those patch dates as well when they come out. If you discover bugs and issues along the way, and you will, then it is worth reporting them on the Issue Council in a quick, concise way. Be sure to search for your bug before submitting, and adding to that report if it's something that's already been discovered, because it does genuinely help. You can find the Issue Council on the Development Issue Council section of the RSI website. It's worth updating your PC spec there as well, especially if it's been a while since you have updated that. I just checked back on one of my accounts, I've got my PC from like 3 years ago on there. For some other useful information, there's a robertspaceindustries.com/telemetry page too that has all the latest stats on frame rates and server stability, allowing you to see where other people with similar rigs are sitting in terms of frame rates. So you can go, why is my frame rate so low compared to these people? Or my frame rate is incredibly high, great. But it also has load times and server stability on there too. Star Citizen's frame rates are notoriously low, and lots of people are averaging 30 to 40 frames per second in 3.12 at the moment, so obviously that's not huge. But 3.13 is supposed to be a bit optimized, especially for CPUs, having more threads being utilized there, so that could lead to some good performance gains. Cargo hauling should be back to being a viable job role and working with 3.13, though there is always risks of getting 30Ks, and that can just happen, hopefully, and it looks like 3.13 should be pretty stable though, so that should happen less, but cargo hauling appears to be viable as a job and not broken. There are various delivery missions, combat missions, both FPS and space, bounty hunting, investigations. Bounty hunting should be probably fixed for the live build. There are problems in the PTU with you can get a crime stat if you're a lawful player and you go after a bounty sometimes. Obviously that's not great, but that should be fixed in the live build. Check the known issues in the patch notes just to be sort of aware of whether that's fixed or not. As I said, I would expect it to be. Mining and refining should be in a great spot as well, although the Rock DS and that sort of gameplay loop there with a two-seater Rock, that might not be ideal. I don't think that's going to be a great vehicle. We'll have to wait and see. How all of these gameplay loops are going to balance out for is it worth your time to grind and get you a C from that route rather than doing something else, we don't know yet. We don't know until live. So I would sort of, at the moment, play to enjoy the gameplay loop. In the future, all of this stuff will be heavily balanced and dynamically changing. It's worth noting as well that Port Olisar might be quite dangerous for 3.13 with the green zone there being relaxed and the turret and security cover being quite poor. It's become a hotbed of PvP activity in the PTU for 3.13 at the moment. But once the patch is live, spend a bit of time outfitting your ship and character with all the gear you want. Make sure you have everything. Buy medipens, buy ammo, buy armor. Make sure that's all sort of in the correct slots. Grab a multi-tool and any attachments you want, stuff like that. There is a load to see, but always be prepared is my advice. I'll get a quick start guide for the important and major key changes and the basic gameplay sort of changes, so you can hit the ground running once that's gone live as well. 3.13 is a little light on gameplay at the moment, but there is going to be a 3.13.x patch or patches that will add ship-to-station docking, the Nova tank, and the Hercules C2 and M2, as well as spawn lockers, and we could also see a load more gameplay sort of turn up if we have the Ninetales lockdown, which could be the next Xenothreat type major dynamic event, which you will hear more about at some point. It could very well be a part of the 3.13 cycle. We do know that at the end of May, we've got Fleet Week. That should be a pretty big major event that you probably want to get involved with. So check that out as it sort of happens, and we will keep you apprised of all the new goings-on in Star Citizen as they come out here on this channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that sort of jazz. But if you have any tips for performance and how to prepare for 3.13 that I haven't mentioned, I'd love to hear it. If you've got any questions about the patch or need any help, please chuck a comment down below. Are you looking forward to 3.13? Have you been playing in the PTU? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Do you have questionable taste in anime? Do you not want internet pirates looting your internet search history? Do you want a way to have more accessibility to the internets from more countries? Or is your security and privacy important to you? Well, get NordVPN. I shill for them, and you should use the code BoredGamer or the links below for a discount. Try it out. It's like a fleet of escort ships making sure your internet experience doesn't get griefed. We have the April ship giveaway as well for a Mercury Star Runner. The ship is extremely multi-role and should be part of any budding citizen's fleet. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning one is comment on any of my videos made during the month. A random commenter will take that prize. These giveaways and the wider channel content are made possible by people that go the extra mile by becoming a Patreon or a YouTube channel member with that join button and the links below. And me and Zin, the editor for the channel, are now trying to put out regular exclusive content as a thank you. We'll also be asking you in those videos to help shape the channel with making decisions about what content we do and how we do it. Please consider joining if you're really enjoying the content. It really does help. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Star Citizen content, and I'll see you in the verse.